If there was one character in Bleach that I never expected to get a Bankai, it was Yamamoto's oft unseen vice captain, Chojiro Sasakibe. However, as part of a posthumous drive to help develop this character, Kubo gave him some backstory, and he also gave him a Bankai as well. And while maybe just giving this character a Bankai doesn't quite compensate for flat out ignoring and seemingly forgetting his existence for the entirety of the series up until this point, it was still pretty cool, and his Bankai Koko Gonryo Rikyuu has a fantastic visual design to boot. Koko Gonryo Rikyuu just made its debut in the Bleach anime as of the last episode, but I thought I would coalesce everything we know about the Bankai together in one fairly short video. However, as always with videos of this nature, we need a starting point, and we're going to begin by taking a look at Sasakibe's Shikai Gonryomaru. Gonryomaru, or Solemn Spirit, has the release command Pierce or Bite, depending on the translation, and it changes his katana to an ornate aristocratic rapier. Honestly, this is really cool. It's quite subtle, but a rapier is a really awesome idea for someone's Shikai. It's a style of sword that we don't ever get to see in Bleach outside of Sasakibe, so on that front, he feels quite unique. It's a shame then that Gonryomaru's Shikai only shows up twice in the series, and both times it doesn't really get to do anything at all. The first time Sasakibe uses his Shikai is during a very famous scene where Ichigo, after having just saved Rukia at the tail end of the Soul Society arc, attempts to defend Renji, who's trying to flee with her, from 3 pursuing vice captains: Omaida, Isane, who also reveals her Zanpakuto here, only for it never to be seen again, and Chojiro himself. As all 3 of the vice captains activate their Shikai, Chojiro activates Gonryomaru. We see the rapier itself, but almost immediately Ichigo manages to subdue and knock him out. The second and final time we get to see Gonryomaru in its Shikai state in the canon manga is at the very start of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, where Chojiro's limp body is propelled into Yamamoto's office. We see that he is holding his Zanpakuto in its activated Shikai state, but here the blade has been snapped in 2. So yeah, not a great showing for Gonryomaru throughout the history of Bleach, and like I said at the start of this video, this is not a character you would ever expect to be given a Bankai later on down the line. One thing that is exceptionally cool, however, about Gonryomaru actually originates from a filler arc, the Zanpakuto Rebellion to be precise. Now, Gonryomaru was never even hinted at having electricity-themed powers and abilities in the story until the 1000-Year Blood War arc. However, if you watched the anime filler The Zanpakuto Rebellion, you'll remember that Gonryomaru's Zanpakuto spirit was actually using lightning-based abilities, which is really, really awesome. It just goes to show, as we know, Kubo was pretty heavily involved in the creation of those original Zanpakuto spirits, that he had an idea for Gonryomaru to be a lightning-themed Zanpakuto, seemingly from as far back as at least the Arrancar arc. So honestly, I loved that. I always thought it was really cool back in the day that the spirit was using lightning-based abilities, because lightning, as far as elemental powers go, doesn't show up in Bleach all that often. In fact, it shows up in the 1000-Year Blood War arc way more than it does previously in the series. Pretty much prior to the final arc, Yoruichi in Shunko was about the only real lightning-based user we had in the series, whereas come the 1000-Year Blood War, we get Chojiro, we get Candice, and of course Yoruichi's still around as well. But it always felt like a nice Easter egg, I guess, for those of us who did watch the anime filler arc. Now, the Zanpakuto Rebellion is absolutely worth watching anyway if you haven't. As far as Bleach filler goes, it's probably the best, if not the second best filler arc of them all. But it really kind of vindicated the moment when Sasakibe's surprise Bankai was revealed and it turned out to be lightning-based. Those of us that had seen the anime could sit back and go, I kind of knew that was going to happen, and it was really awesome to see. But speaking of his Bankai, Koko Gonryo Rikyuu, known as the Twinkling Yellow Lightning Palace, again, for a Bankai that kind of felt like it came out of nowhere, for a character whom I never anticipated to have one, I think it's really cool. I absolutely love the visual design. It feels totally unique. The kinds of Bankai that I like the most are the ones that have big physical constructs that appear generally behind the user, and that's exactly what you get here with Koko Gonryo Rikyuu. Like most Bankai users, Chojiro has a unique Bankai activation ritual. He lifts his rapier to the sky, pointing the tip of the blade upwards. Clouds begin to gather overhead, and lightning then surges upwards from the blade into the sky itself, activating the Bankai. When his Bankai is active, it takes the form of a gigantic dome of electricity anchored to the floor, grounded, if you will, by several electric pillars. This dome, which particularly in the anime appears to take the shape of some kind of electric cage, is then connected to the sky by a single bolt as well. Presumably the same bolt that initiated the Bankai in the first place. Now, despite having apparently mastered Bankai before Kyoraku and Ukitake were even born, which honestly always did feel like a bit of a stretch, that's quite the impressive feat, and it also makes this Bankai easily one of the most ancient in the entire series. As the Sternritter Driscoll would even mention later on, Sasakibe hadn't used his Bankai in about 2,000 years. Despite having mastered it so very long ago, Chojiro would never use it again in the presence of another person, as he tried to honour his vow to make it worthwhile of Yamamoto. I kind of like that Kubo sprinkles in a little bit of what feels like meta commentary during Sasakibe's eulogy on Byakuya's part. Byakuya, after talking about how Chojiro had mastered being able to use Bankai so very long ago, goes on to say that not all captain class individuals are men of character, saying that so many of these supposedly high-ranking, powerful, and should-be noble examples would mock Sasakibe, would deride him, believing that he wasn't worthy of his position as vice-captain, since he seemingly never really got involved in fights and seemed instead to simply only exist to serve Yamamoto. And I like that, because it does feel very meta, because Sasakibe has obviously been the butt of many jokes over the course of Bleach's history. The vice-captain who is never seen, who never gets a chance to do anything, and the only 2 times we do see him do anything, he is instantly defeated, and in the second one, killed. So in some ways it's almost Kubo's fault that that's the reception this character has been given, but I like that it felt like he weaved that into the character's own storyline as well, and it made Sasakibe something of an overachieving underdog. Much in the same way as Hyorin Maru can control the weather, so too can Koko Gonryo Rikyuu. As the moment it is summoned, it creates these tempestuous clouds overhead. It changes the weather in order to facilitate its own abilities. This Bankai is kind of unique in that we see it used in 3 distinctly different ways across 3 different mediums: the canon manga, the anime which only just released, and the mobile game Bleach Brave Souls. Now firstly we have that original canon appearance in chapter 504, Beyond the Roaring Thunder. In this scene we only get to see this Bankai utilised by Sternritter O, the overkill Driscoll Bursey, who was responsible for killing Sasakibe after taking his Bankai for himself. In the source material, we don't get to see Sasakibe use his Bankai at all outside of a brief flashback showcasing him initiating the activation. Now, Driscoll's usage of this Bankai is fairly limited, although up until the anime, we didn't really know why. We could only go off of Yamamoto's own words that Driscoll using the Bankai was somehow inferior to Chojiro himself. By gesturing with his arms, Driscoll is able to rain blasts of lightning down from the sky to strike Yamamoto. We see that Driscoll, whether intentionally or not, brings down more bolts of lightning than he actually needs at any one time, showering the area around Yamamoto with blasts as well, which to me I think is supposed to indicate that he hasn't refined his usage of this power at all, and is almost wildly blasting the area around Yamamoto. In the digitally coloured version of the Bleach manga, the Bankai here is represented with purple lightning, whether it's being used by Chojiro or Driscoll, and this would actually be changed and fixed later on down the line in both Brave Souls and the anime. In the anime episode that just released, we actually get an extended look at Chojiro using his Bankai in that flashback, and we actually get to see him use it in a more advanced manner than it looks like Driscoll was ever ever going to. Here, his Bankai takes on its usual golden colour while it remains purple when Driscoll is using it, which is really awesome as it showcases obviously the two different users and potentially that Driscoll isn't using it anywhere near its true potential. After surrounding himself with the crackling golden pillars of lightning, Sasakibe is able to run his blade, which remains in Shikai state, through those pillars, gathering and collecting energy on the edge of his blade, before bolting forwards towards Yamamoto in seemingly a single, extremely fast strike. Flying towards his opponent at tremendous speed like a single blast of lightning, Chojiro is able to inflict considerable injury upon his foe, and according to the anime, this is the attack that gave Yamamoto his injury and his scar. Now, I wouldn't normally bring up Brave Souls in relation to something like this, but Chojiro has always been a fascinating and unique case study, like I said, of someone who we never got to see them use the Bankai. Initially, it was used through someone else as a conduit. So actually, Brave Souls ended up being the first place we got to see Sasakibe using this power. Interestingly, his Bankai here has the correct coloration. It is bright gold. However, when he uses his basic attacks in Shikai, which apparently are also lightning-based, they're actually purple. While of course this isn't canon in any respect, in my opinion, this was them trying to remedy the fact that the digitally coloured version of the story was showing Sasakibe using purple energy, whereas the name of the Bankai would indicate it was supposed to be gold. Here, when using his special ability, Sasakibe activates his Bankai and then curves the tip of his Zanpakuto around himself, dragging it along the floor and seemingly activating the attack, sending blasts of lightning zigzagging towards his opponent. And so that's really everything on Chojiro Sasakibe's surprising and ancient electric Bankai, Koko Gonryo Rikyuu. Like I said, I really like it, and it's also kind of a weird one, a weirdly fascinating one, in that it is so unique. It is, in the canon source material, the only Bankai that we never really get to see its actual user using, and is instead shown to us almost entirely through somebody else. It's then equally interesting to me that throughout these different mediums we then got to see Koko Gonryo Rikyuu being used slightly differently each time. I think clearly my favourite variation of this is the anime. It was so awesome getting to see that additional scene, getting to see Chojiro showcasing his expertise. Even though Yamamoto calls it an infant Bankai, a newborn Bankai, we can already see Chojiro using it with more potency than Driscoll perhaps ever could. But that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Only a short one this time. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already for more Bleach content like this every single week. And as always, a massive shout out and a huge thank you goes out to everyone who is supporting this channel via Patreon. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. But until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. I'll see you then.